Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Erik Stafford. I'm here with my coworker and friend, Joe Thornton,
Hello, everybody.
who I just found out today. I've been saying your name wrong all this time. Maybe we can chat about that in a little bit here.
Maybe so.
But welcome. We're going to give folks a couple of minutes to stream on in here and join us. As you join us, feel free to please say hello and let us know where you're currently quarantined, where you're sitting, where you're living. Hopefully we can get some people from some fairly interesting places. I'm in South Florida. Joe, you are Minneapolis or St. Paul?
I am in the east side of St. Paul, so a little bit chillier than where you are sitting in your lanai. I'm looking out at a park with people with like winter jackets on right now.
Oof. What, and a winter jacket? Remind me again, what is that?
It's a heavy coat we wear to not be cold.
So thank you for joining us. The topic today, this is the first in AimClear's Fireside chats. We're going to be doing these every Friday with a different topic. We'd love your input on the topics as we go along. Hey, Jennifer's here from Northern Michigan. Hey, Jennifer, thank you for joining. Let me go real quick to Facebook and see if I can actually share this live event on my personal Facebook page. I should be able to do that, right?
Northern Michigan is a wonderful area.
All right, how do I share this on my Facebook page? Oh yeah, I could just put the link, couldn't I?
You could do that.
Let me do that right now.
Okay.
We're live. There we go.
We have someone else joined us where let's see, it sounds like their heat pump isn't working. They're using small electric heaters.
Oh,
they must be from up north too. They're not in your neighborhood, Erik.
I'm curious if you are actually in nameless Tennessee, if that's the name of the town, or you just aren't sharing the name of the town. But either way, thank you for joining. It's good to see you, my friend. So the first of our Fireside chats, Joe and I wanted to talk a bit about messaging strategy during critical times. And I think these certainly qualify as critical times. I mean, look around. It's very evident to see that, businesses are hurting. People are scared. And so how do you market during this time, even if you have the best of intentions, without just striking the exact wrong chord and really offending people? It's not easy right now. And so I thought that, Joe, you would be a perfect partner to join me on this topic. Do you want to just share with people a bit about what you do and what your experience is as it relates to PR and messaging?
Yeah, I've been in various aspects of PR and crisis communications and corporate communications for the past 20 plus years. Prior to that, I worked in a TV newsroom in Duluth, Minnesota, where AimClear is headquartered, and both being on the reporter side of it, but also on the PR side of it, you get a sense of the challenges that organizations, even individuals, have in how to communicate, when to communicate, what to be said during times of crisis. Now, a lot of times that's reactionary crisis to something that has happened to the brand. Then you get these moments in time, and this is longer than a moment, obviously, but it's a moment in time where the world is different. It's September 11th. It's the financial crisis in the mid 2000s. It's what we're going through right now, where the usual rules of how you engage and how you present and the messages you share change dramatically, and you're working in really uncharted territory because each situation is different. We're having a lot of conversations with brands right now, the clients that we represent, on what should you be saying? How should you be positioning this? Is this too much of an attempt at humor? Is this tone deaf to the situation that people are facing? Because there's still a need for brands to connect with their audiences, arguably even more so now, even though we're not seeing really rapid buying patterns and shopping patterns and transactional patterns. All of that is going much more on the dormant side, but there's still a critical need to be communicating, but doing so in the right tone and with the right type of messaging that reflects the times and is helpful.
Yeah, that's the key, right? Because stuff that worked 2 weeks ago or a month ago, it may just not work at all. And we've got some examples of that that we'll be sharing during the live chat today. So, guys, this is going to be pretty informal. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. We don't really have a slide deck to share. We don't really have a sort of prepared agenda. We just wanted to chat a bit about some of the things that we're seeing with our own business at AimClear and also with our clients, and some of the advice that we're giving to our friends and family and people that we love, local businesses that we love that are now suddenly struggling with this new paradigm. And like Joe had said, this is a historical moment in time, and there's a lot of uncertainty around it. We don't know how long it will last. We don't know how much back to quote unquote normal things will get, or how long that will take. And so there's just a lot of fear and uncertainty that people have. And, I think speaking sort of from an overview standpoint about, AimClear and our business and our clients, a lot of our clients are looking at pulling back from lead acquisition initiatives because, it's harder to sell, and budgets are slimmer in a lot of instances, and moving more towards brand initiatives. Like, how do we really keep or grow our market share? How do we really communicate with our customers or our members and show them that we're in this with them, we're in this together? And is one type of messaging better than the other? And can you do both, right? And then joking, obviously, right, Joe? You and I have chatted a lot about messaging we've seen where it's like, is it too soon? Can you even joke about this? And yet all of us are looking at memes all day long about coronavirus. And so
it's always not even always about joking about the current situation. It's like just humor in general has to be tendered very carefully and delicately. And I think we're also seeing the fact that you have a knee-jerk reaction, and an understandable one, where brands, conversions aren't happening, so you scale back on spend, or you cut spend entirely. And it's counterintuitive, but it's actually a time when it's critical to be in front of the audiences. And maybe it is on a scaled back amount, maybe it's on a different strategy, but what is the ultimate goal right now? It might not be get the actual conversion, but it might be, let's engage with them. They know we're here. They know we're viable. They know they start to build up their own sense of, when this is done, what do I want to do? And there's opportunity now for more of that kind of brand building and staying connected with the audiences and the customers you're trying to reach. And it's easy to understand the knee-jerk notion of like, well, you know what, nothing's happening right now, so let's just stop spending.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've seen some big brands over the last couple of weeks launch some initiatives that are much, longer term plays in terms of the ROI that they may generate from those initiatives, right? And it's very interesting to me, the dynamic between those initiatives, sort of we're in this together, we're a community, we're here for you, we want to help you, and selling, because at the end of the day, businesses still need, short-term ROI to pay their employees and keep the lights on and whatever else it is, right? And so I think, to me, the first thing I always think of when I look at messaging during times like this is the tone, and how do you reframe the tone, right? And so I've heard a lot of people say over the past couple of weeks, the world will never be the same. And, that may be true, but you could also say the world will never be the same.
Yeah.
Like, that could be a very exciting and wonderful thing as well, right?
Oh, exactly. And I'm actually looking at a couple comments coming in, and jumping back to actually a little bit on the humor side. Artigene is saying that, great point here, if you never laugh or smile, when do you know when it's time to cry? Keith is offering up that jokes are fine as long as you don't inflict a painful emotional reaction. It's about understanding the viewer's point of view. And I think that gets to the core of a lot of what we want to talk about in the actual messaging, and how do you do this? Because understanding the drivers and the motivators for the audience and where they are right now in their state of mind. It was really interesting. I have a client who works they have a SaaS-based software system. And a few weeks ago, they hosted a webinar, and the idea was actually to just get kind of the community together. And the thought was maybe it's a chance just to commiserate a little bit and be together while people were confused. I would say 5 minutes into it, the questions started coming in very specific. How should we be reacting to changes in search patterns on Google? And it's like people want to move forward. They want to figure out how to run their business. They want to understand how to connect with viewers, understand their point of view, as Keith points out, understanding their point of view and create the experience, the connection that still meets their immediate needs right now. And so maybe we should talk a little bit, Erik, about some of those things, about the actual messaging. What are the hits? What are the misses? Where are brands doing well and where are they maybe not?
Yeah. So, I mean, it might seem, super basic and super intuitive, like, duh, of course you would do this. But whenever, we want to put out messaging as a company, or we have clients that we're working on messaging for, there's always a goal. There's always, something that we want to say or get done, some initiative that we want to push, or at least there should be, right? So, we'll have clients that'll say our goal, these are our KPIs. These are our goals. This is what we want to achieve with this piece of messaging. But I think equally important, or maybe even more important, is, okay, what are the audience's goals? Like, what are the audiences feeling in a very real way? And what is going to ease those pains or calm those fears or address those concerns? Because that's where value meets offer, and that's where exchanges happen, right? Like that's where need meets want, right? And meets offers. So we're always sort of thinking, all right, so we get it that you want to sell XYZ, or we get it, like a lot of businesses that we know here are looking at taking their business online and doing curbside carryout, or trying to stream yoga classes or fitness classes online. And it's like, great. So what is your goal here? And their goal may be, we want to buy actual food and pay our actual rent and survive through this. And it's like, okay, cool. What is your audience's goal? And that really is where you can start to address the concerns that your audience has, or the desires that they have, in a way that makes a lot of sense to them, rather than just looking sort of at your initiative or your goal, right? So that would probably be my first recommendation, would be to really think hard about, what does your audience want? What do they need? What are they struggling with? What is their emotional trigger or driver right now? And how do we address that? And once you figure that out, then you can get granular with the messaging to make sure that you're not saying anything that might be, accidentally offensive right now.
We had a couple of examples, and I'm going to see if I can share my screen here. I was going to test this before we went live, and I didn't. I'm going to share. Let me see here. I think I can do this.
Joe, we're going to have to make sure and let Marty know that Larry Bruce says hello.
I saw that. We will pass that along. Larry, we appreciate you joining us.
And Marty will be on future editions of the Fireside Chat. We've got some pretty interesting topics lined up for these that I'm pretty excited about. But for now, messaging.
All right. Let me see if I can get this one correct and we don't get some weird feedback on this. Is this trying to share my screen, and there's a couple of examples that I was going to show. Doesn't look like it's showing up. Let me just explain it. We'll go through it that way, and we'll test it better next time. We've got a couple of clients that we've worked with they're in the travel industry in northern Minnesota, the Boundary Waters Canoe area, which is it's God's country. It is untouched wilderness, and the outfitters up there, the lodges, their customers are like family to them. They also have a very short window of when they get to do business. So Seagull Outfitters is one we've had a long time relationship with, and we created a campaign for them that tapped into the notion that people are right now, they're not booking, they're not planning because they don't know what to expect. And we just did a really simple messaging for them with some beautiful imagery of the area, and it talked about keep dreaming, the lakes and woods of the Boundary Waters is waiting for you, and we're ready here when you are. And there was more to it. Actually, the length of the post for a paid Facebook post was quite long. It performed extremely well for them. It got a ton of engagement on a paid post, a ton of really great comments. We're up to, I don't have the number in front of me. The number of comments that came through was just astounding. And it's a beautiful business that loves their customers, and they needed an opportunity to still be able to engage with them and have messaging that helped kind of share a little bit of a dream. People do want to dream about what they want to do when this is all over. And this is about serene wilderness, getting away. It's kind of like social distancing. That the reason people leave the city is to go up to the Boundary Waters and get away from it all. And now it's like the dream is get out there and just let this out, get away from all of this stress and strain and uncertainty, even though we don't know when that date will be. We did a similar campaign with another Boundary Waters outfitter, which is Gunflint Lodge and Outfitters. Somewhat similar messaging and tone, but it was letting people know that your getaway will happen, and similar type of messaging about being here when you're ready. Both performed really well. The messaging was right on. The visuals gave people a reason to kind of remember why they love it, why they want to go there, why they want to be there. And maybe it's a pause in the stress of the day, even just to see that familiar sight of the gorgeous lakes up there, the gorgeous wilderness, and kind of go like, yeah, we will get back to normal. And it was beautiful how the messaging, the imagery, everything worked well to create the right kind of emotional trigger to spur people to act. The traffic, they got great traffic, they got great inbound phone calls, they get great interaction with their audiences. And I think for the people receiving the message on that end, on the receiving end, it was a moment of sort of happiness and serene at a time.
Yeah.
Where, man, we need happiness.
It's like a bit of nostalgia or something, right?
Yeah.
It brings you back to the memories you have at those places. And, I'd be curious to see what Dan and Susan and Marty have to say about this next week. They're going to be digging into specifically how to address this sort of stuff in paid search and social. But I could imagine a world in which community-focused messaging like that, like, hey, we're family, we're here, we miss you, we love you, we can't wait to see you again. We don't know when that's going to be, but we're here. I think, for example, videos like that can then be retargeted to video views, which are often quite affordable, to an offer where you can say, look, because of current events, we're struggling a bit. We could use some help. And we'd love to offer you a great discount to book your next trip. And you can sort of retarget to an offer. So you can kind of switch from a community-focused message to a message that still sticks with the community aspect, but also says, hey, we're in this together. Would you like to help us out? And we've seen a lot of that with some of our local restaurants where absolutely we can help you out. We'll buy $100 worth of wine and come and have you throw it in the back of the car for us because we love you and we can't wait to get back to normal with you.
And this, Marty's actually weighing in here with a comment that he kind of sums it up nicely. Audiences want that realism, hope, professionalism, the connection, all those things that many brands really do enjoy. There's one that you and I talked about earlier, and I wish we could share video. It's a television ad, and this kind of is one where it's interesting to me. It's Hy-Vee grocery chain, and they've got a number of stores right here in the Twin Cities metro area in Minnesota. They put up a commercial, and in the first 3 seconds, I was reacting kind of negatively to it. They had a kitschy theme. It was that 80s tune by Bonnie Tyler, "Holding Out for a Hero," and it's really upbeat. It's really up tempo, and it's really fast. And it's that song from my youth, which was kind of a long time ago. About 3 or 4 seconds into it, as they mixed in the visuals of, it was your frontline people, it was your ER staff, it was the nurse, it was the doctor, it was the orderly, it was the police officer, firefighter, it was the guy restocking lettuce in the shelves, it was the back to a first responder, back to someone stocking the meat shelves. And even though the song was really overly kitschy from an old 80s tune from Footloose, the message was really powerful. and they threaded a beautiful needle of that whole notion of community, appreciation, not just for the people out on the front lines as we think of them as your first responders, but the pride they showed in their employees was extremely powerful. You could see that the brand, it mattered to them how their employees are perceived in this space. And I thought it was a really well done spot. Now, about 2 days later, I saw a competing grocery chain use David Bowie's "We Could Be Heroes," and it also worked really well. But it sort of was like, okay, kind of someone did it first and someone did it second, and I don't know who gets the win on the great thinking on that message. But it was powerful, and it was optimistic, and it was also, there was a seriousness to it. They blended a lot of the emotional triggers all in one 30-second ad. It was really well done, and I'm not a big fan of TV ads.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so I mean, I think when it comes to talking about tone and not being perceived as capitalistic or tone deaf or over opportunistic, I think that really comes down to an understanding of what people's core emotional triggers are, so that you can identify them and, play to them, but not prey on them. I think that really is the big difference on a granular messaging level. And so, really quickly, an old friend, Mike Morgan, who's a very, very good copywriter, a direct response copywriter, actually doing a lot of work with Agora these days. He shared these with me years ago. And back to what we were saying earlier, right? We know what our agenda is with our messaging. We know that we want to get people to pay for our streamed yoga class or come by and do curbside pickup or, buy from our brand. But what is the audience's agenda? What are they feeling right now? Like, emotionally. And so the 7 emotional sales triggers that Mike shared with me years ago that, I always look at these when I write messaging. The first one is to make or save money. This is an inherent sort of, feeling or need that people, in a lot of different audiences feel really, really strongly, right? Be safe and secure is the second one. Be comfortable, look better, live forever. Entire industries are built on this emotional trigger of looking better, right? Mm-hmm. The entire diet and exercise industry is built on looking better and living forever, right? And be accepted. And then finally, the 7th, save time and work less. And so, make or save money, be safe and secure, be comfortable. What was the next one? Look better, live forever, feel accepted, and save time and work less. And so when I think about that list and think about maybe what, the majority of different people in the world right now might be feeling, I would guess it's a combination of make and save money. There's a lot of people that are really struggling financially right now in light of all of this. Be safe and secure would be a second big one that I think a lot of people are feeling because there's just so much uncertainty out there. And then be accepted. Right? Everyone is isolated right now, and some people are isolated alone, and some people are isolated with their family and still feel very alone. And so I think overall, if we were to speak generally, look at your offer, look at what it is that you do or what you have that you can trade as value for money. And look at how it addresses some of those triggers, right? How does it help people save or make money? How does it help them feel safer or secure? Or, and you might combine look better and live forever into, get healthier, feel healthier, stay healthy during all of this while your gym is closed and while you can't really go to the park, right? And then finally be accepted. I think what you had mentioned, Joe, the example of Seagull Canoe Outfitters, it's a family, right? Like it's being accepted into this group of people, and you miss them. You miss them because you can't go right now.
And Marty has shared the links to the ones that I was talking about, both Seagull and the one for Gunflint Lodge and Outfitters in the comment thread. And I encourage people to take a look at those because it really was it was something that I think overall both us and the clients were really proud of. That it's really good, solid messaging that connects at an emotional level. There was an element of hope. There's an element of camaraderie and that we're in this together. There's also a seriousness, a level of seriousness about the nature of it. On that note, there were a couple of things that we've spotted, Eric, and I think you've got an example on your computer you might be able to share. Pitfalls that people need to be aware of. It's not just in what you're creating now, but it's what you created back 2 months ago or 3 months ago.
Right.
You want to call up the newspaper one?
Yeah, I'm actually sharing.
Oh, you've got the seagull one right there. Yeah, that's one of them right there. Look at that. If you are someone who goes to the Boundary Waters on a regular basis and you see that canoe with the lake map wrapped in plastic, so if it falls out of the canoe, you still have your map to get back, and the beautiful paddle, that harkens someone's heart right there. The people who go there, that is heaven on earth right there, looking at that bow of that canoe. And the messaging in there was just very welcoming, and we're looking forward to seeing people at what their planned start date is. They talk about that being May 9th, but then that may not happen.
Yeah, we're going to be flexible along with the rest of you.
And they did get great response, both by phone, as you see the phone number was in there, the email address. The other one was the one from Gunflint. I don't know if you have that one up in front of you.
I don't have it in front of me, but I can probably figure out a way to share some
two beautiful Adirondack chairs looking out at Gunflint Lake.
That's so good.
Empty chairs, because right now the chairs are empty. And similar tone of messaging. And it's something I was actually, out of all the things you write as the course of someone who creates messaging, and that's been core to what I've done for the last couple of decades. There are times that you feel a lot of really kind of even a little more pride in something that you wrote, and it might be short. And the ones that we worked on collaboratively, it wasn't just me creating these. It felt really good, because the reaction also that you saw from the people who received the message was beautiful. And it showed that a deep connection between the business and its people.
And the question of can commerce and community work together in your messaging during this time? Well, this is a perfect example of that, right? Because they're saying right out of the gate, we're going to be here for you when you're ready, and without question, you are most important to us. And then further down the post, it says, give us a call. And I think this works so well. And,
it was not a heavy sell like buy now or sign up now or register now. And that kind of immediacy sale thing can be very off-putting, because right now there's not a lot of things, unless you work in protective equipment or something very specific, that people we're in a need-based reaction right now. But there still is, every product still has its place, right? That place and time for the purchase might be pushed out. It solves a problem. It meets a need, like you've been discussing those triggers, and it's critical to think that through. It's also important. Something we were talking about, Eric, before we went live here, was the fact that right now people's emotions are also very raw and very frayed. And so you'll get negative feedback on some messaging, and you have to kind of weigh that out. I saw one just the other day. There was a very negative response to, wasn't something that we had done or for any of our clients, but it's a company that deals in data, and they used a chart, and it was a chart that was like animated and going up.
Oh boy.
And two people out of several, but two people reacted and like, how dare you use animated charts right now? And they were I'm not minimizing their emotional reaction to it, but in looking at it critically, the messaging, what they were trying to get across, all of it was actually fine. But because people are reacting to things on just a visceral level right now, you have to weigh that out. Sometimes the feedback you get might be more of an outlier type of feedback, that this messaging, we shouldn't use this imagery, we shouldn't use it. You have to still step back and look critically at the totality of what is your message, what are the images, what was the driver behind potentially the negative reaction that came across, because it's offset by other positive reactions, and you have to make some critical decisions on that to be able to make the decision on, should you adjust mid-course, should you change it, should you stay with what you have. And it's easy on the marketer side to go like, oh my God, people are reacting negatively to that. It's like, we're never going to have universal, like, wow, that was great right now. You're never going to have it to begin with. Right now, even less so.
Well, we talked about this in some of our, Facebook posts this week, right? Like everyone is very sensitive. And generally, what I've found in my life is when people are easily triggered, not to minimize what they're feeling, but when people are easily triggered, they're afraid or they're angry. It's one of the two, and often both, right? And so when you look at the way people feel these days about politics or gun ownership or sexual preference or the Me Too movement or whatever it is, there's lots of topics like this that people have extraordinarily strong opinions about. And I think the current pandemic is no different. There are people out there that are, not to belittle how they feel, but they are convinced that there's a larger conspiracy at play here, or that Bill Gates or the Chinese government or whatever is, somehow involved or responsible for this. And again, not to belittle those feelings that those people have. They have very strong, real feelings, in alignment with that. And then there are people who are looking at those people and saying, just stay in your house, dude. And they have very strong feelings about that, right? And so whenever people are in that spot where they're angry and afraid, you have to be ultra careful with your messaging. Like having good intentions and being a good person or a good business is just not enough. It's not enough, right? And my daughter is a perfect example of that. When the Me Too movement exploded into the public space and everyone was talking about it, I kind of figured I don't really have to worry about this. I've been loyal and faithful. I've been married 21 years. I'm a good guy. I would never, this is not me that they're talking about. And my daughter was like, I know it's not you, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, right?
Now, you bring that back to the interactions with brands, though, right now, and the visceral reactions that people are having. It's really important, again, to take into account the totality of the interaction, but also keep in mind, if someone is reacting to something that you have out as a brand, as any positioning, messaging, imagery, you might be the 8th thing in a row that was just really bad in their day, or they were trying to cancel a subscription, or they were trying to return a product, or they were trying to order a product and it can't get in till April 24th now because of delays in shipping. And people are reacting that way as well. You might be number 8 in a long line of big frustrations, and the thing that set them off really may or may not be the messaging that you had. Again, it's always so critical to step back. And then there are the egregious ones, though, where it's just, you can just tell where some brand is completely tone deaf to the situation. Or
should we pull up some of the examples that you and I have been sort of discussing over coffee over the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think the one about the one of our local newspapers, and I give them the benefit of the doubt on this. I'm going to guess this one in particular had been put into like something like co-schedule 2 months ago as part of an editorial calendar. Do you have it up that we can share it?
I think I do. Give me a sec. Let me make sure.
It's the one about restaurants.
Sorry, give me one sec.
We're learning this cool platform as we go.
We are, yeah. Folks, sound off. Let us know where you've joined us from, and please say hello. Let us know if you have any questions. Hey, Michelle, appreciate you joining us. I see Marty and Lee have joined us as well. Good to see you guys. Joe, I think that we can both agree that we have absolutely the best coworkers in the world.
Yeah, it's we're very fortunate to work at a place where everyone has their backs and helping each other through. We're doing like these. We're doing actually bi-weekly all team huddles where it's a Zoom meeting, and it's a chance just to get together and see each other and just see each other's faces and have that connection that everyone craves so much. So if you're not able to get that one image up, Erik, I can describe it. It was a paid Facebook ad that was directing to evergreen content on the news site. And the story was something like 20 of our favorite restaurants that are now extinct, but we really miss them. Now, it was like old
There we
restaurants
go.
from the
Got
Twin
it.
Cities. The article 2 months ago would have been just great. And it would have been interesting, like, oh yeah, that old restaurant, loved it. That was awesome.
You know, there was a place in Minneapolis when I visited my brother up there years ago called either Hot Plate or Hot Dish, Haute.
Yep.
It was an amazing meal that we had at this restaurant. And unfortunately, that was not the first thing I thought of when I saw this, was my fond memories for that incredible meal that we had. The first thing I thought when I saw this was, oh man, these guys are going to get flamed.
Yeah, and it's one of these things. Again, I'll put money on it that this was in a system, auto-populating, and it was calendared out 2 months ago.
Sponsored months ago. Yeah, like
Marty's telling us they're still running the ad, so maybe they didn't see Marty's tweet when we brought this one up publicly. But you look at this messaging, and it's like this: if this was done just now, talk about tone deaf. When we have beloved restaurants that are clinging for dear life right now, when this article was about, wow, boy, I remember that restaurant from my childhood, and boy, we used to get a great steak there for $2 or something, as we'd say in Minnesota.
Yeah.
It's you look at this, and then one next to it too, Eric. I think this is the one you found. It's Hello Paradise. Now this is different than what we talked about Seagull Outfitters and Gunflint Lodge and Outfitters. This just looks like there's the world is normal right now, right?
Yeah, like nothing's wrong, right? Yeah. Come and visit. Come take a cruise. Come take a pandemic cruise or vacation, right? Like, and again, I mean, this is why it's so important to backtrack and audit your systems, right? As marketers, we love automation. We love the thought that we can create autoresponders and have messages queued up to go out automatically, and we love scheduling campaigns and promotions in advance. But when things like COVID-19 happen, you really have to go back and audit your systems and make sure that you're not saying something that 6 weeks ago might have been incredibly effective, but now is just going to piss people off.
Yeah, and you have to also step back and look at the stuff that's in queue that is going to auto populate. But it's important to always just step back and just ask a colleague, ask your resident PR guy. I'm getting asked a lot right now. Hey, can you take a look at this? What do you think about this messaging? And I'm seeing some really great stuff that comes to us. That's either things that our team has done or clients have done. And some of it is like, wow, that is awesome. That is spot on. And there's other ones you do have to intervene and say, the tone of that, and some of it is just your rituals. It's the large crowd. It's those simple things right now where people notice if the ad has people all bunched together. I crave the day we can all be bunched together again
in a photo.
Yeah. I was watching a YouTube video of a U2 concert last night at Slane Castle, where it's 100,000 people all mashed together on this amazing lawn, and you kind of think, will we ever get there again? But right now, if you were using that from that type of imagery from a marketing standpoint, the initial thought is they're too close together. Yeah, and your message gets lost in there. And it's just critical to have someone else in the organization, ask your PR person, ask just a non-biased third party, not on the account. Hey, take a look at this. How do you react to it? Use your family as a focus group. And ask someone who's not close to the situation, close to the account, to be able to say, how would you react to this? And family is oftentimes a really good barometer. Through my entire career, my wife, probably should have been like billing her time, but I'd use her as a one-person focus group in many cases to say, how would you react to this? And you get that. That's one simple way to get a good gauge really quickly on that. So, John from Gunflint's talking about a shore lunch with fresh caught walleye up at Gunflint. Oh, that sounds delicious.
I'm going to turn myself back into a Midwesterner for a minute and tell you, John, say hello to your folks for me. So a couple other examples that I came across over the last couple of weeks. This one from Nike. If you've ever dreamed of playing for millions around the world, now's your chance. I think this is really smart messaging. It plays to Nike's brand. Yep. And then years ago, I had signed up for Cabbage to do some research for a client. and I got this message. Unfortunately, I missed the first message, what they had done to sort of anger their audience, but I'm guessing they did something that was careless or thoughtless or perceived that way. And, I'd be curious for your thoughts on this, Joe, but I've often found that when you do something that you didn't intend, it often is best to just own it and apologize. And so, I recognize that you and many others are understandably angry. They made credit lines unavailable, right? We failed to communicate our decision to you in advance, and for that, we're deeply sorry. You deserve to know why we're making our decisions. You deserve better. So this is from the CEO, and he just owned what they perceived to be a mistake, or certainly what they understood by monitoring their channels, pissed people off.
And we are seeing that. You are seeing people get angry at brands for their messaging, for their positioning, for a service that's not working 100% right now. When it is the fault of the business, it is amazing the power of an actual, this is, crisis communications 101, own it and apologize and explain it.
Mm-hmm.
People do have an incredible capability to forgive. And I've seen it play out time and time again. And people sense the PR apology. And I say that as a PR person, the old, we're sorry.
It doesn't ring true.
Sorry that this may have offended you. It's like, wow, you just blamed the recipient for being offended at the dumb thing you did.
Right.
And that's, I teach my teenage sons, what is a real apology versus what is a PR apology. Human beings, can smell out the PR apology really quickly. And if it needs to be apologized, apologize and explain it. And something like that can be done very well. And you kind of have to be ready for a little more of that right now, again, because everyone will make missteps. Everyone will have something that, with all the best intentions in the world and all the best vetting of messaging, something still can get through where it really goes the wrong way. And wow, I'm sorry, that was wrong, can be really powerful. People are forgiving of that right now. It's a weird state of mind everyone's in right now. Hair triggers, but also walk around the neighborhoods. In my neighborhoods, little kids are out doing beautiful sidewalk chalk, telling people to be kind to themselves, be kind to each other. You are important. And you kind of walk by going like, wow, those little kids are brilliant.
Why do I get the feeling you're going to be drawing on your sidewalks all weekend?
But you don't want to see my stick figures that I can draw.
So guys, if you joined us late, sorry to interrupt you, Joe. I just want to let people know that this is the first in several Fireside Friday chats that AimClear will be hosting. We have a bunch of topics. We're going to be covering one of them every Friday. If you did join us late, thank you for joining. We appreciate you taking the time. And our goal here today is to talk about messaging strategy during critical times. And so that's what we've been doing. We have about 15 minutes left. If you have any questions, please share them in the chat and we will do our best to get to them. And in the meantime, what I'd like to do, Joe, as we move towards wrapping this up, if you're cool with it, I'd like to sort of give people frameworks for how they can create effective messaging right now for people, business owners, brands, small businesses who are either changing up their message in light of what's happening or in light of the fact that they've had to change their offers or looking to put out very aware and sensitive messaging right now. So we talked about some tips, starting with don't just, think about your agenda, think about your audience's emotions right now and think about how you can, play to those without preying on those is really, really important. Any other tips that you would share, Joe, along those lines of how to really look at what you were doing before and what you need to be doing now and how to translate that into effective messaging?
Well, it's, some of it does get back to what we talked about earlier with the, the immediacy of the sale and pushing the sale too hard right now. And understanding, looking at the buying cycles and knowing that buying cycles aren't going to stop, but they're longer. And you may be more into a nurturing message for a little while here, whether you're the canoe outfitter up in the Boundary Waters area, or if you're if you're a restaurant. There's also the challenges that some businesses I think are going to find where are the customers going to come back like they were before? I'm seeing so many people. I'm sporting my own home haircut that my wife did, and it was okay. I probably still will go back to the actual barber once.
Joe, we're here for you when you're ready.
We were ready, Erik, to go full blown Erik Stafford. If things went bad, we had the clipper set that I was gonna test out the look. But you have to be thinking about that, and you're seeing interesting shifts in the ways that some businesses are actually delivering what they do right now, to whether it's restaurants moving more to takeout, it's yoga studios offering online courses. I've seen some amazing things in the music industry where talk about an industry hard hit. Performances stopped. Paid performances were hard enough to come by 2 months ago, but they are gone, right? Every club, everything, they don't have anywhere to play. I'm seeing really great musicians putting up lessons, online lessons and we've taken advantage of some of them with one of my sons who's very musically inclined. That's a different way to do business and do that. Now, Keith has an interesting thing here. I've seen a lot of businesses asking for support during this crisis. Would it be a better idea for businesses to address how they can help their customers instead of how their customers can help them? That's an interesting one. That almost gets to kind of a loyalty thing. I'm seeing right in my neighborhood, there's a little one location family-owned restaurant, and the community is like so behind this particular restaurant. They want to make sure she survives, that Angelina's restaurant will be there when this is all done. There's a fierce loyalty that they have. And I think to answer Keith's question, to me, it's like you have to kind of gauge where you are on that spectrum. Your audiences may well be open to the help you out during this, but people are, and I'm just using this term very like antiseptically, people are selfish, and rightfully so. They're looking for what they need right now and how to get through. So deep, high loyalty type of business, you might be able to do a little bit of like asking for support, but that's people on the receiving end are also in many cases looking for support.
Yeah. What's in it for me, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Keith, I tell you what, I think that the answer to your question is a big fat yes. I think that you can definitely say to your customers, hey, we really could use your help, but you really should be thinking about ways that you can help them no matter what that looks like. And that sort of has always been one of Aim Clear's philosophies, right? The more you give, the more you get back. And not to sort of toot our own horn, but we've always found that, companies that are doing things like U-Haul's doing, offering college students the ability to store their stuff
it's brilliant
for free for several months because they've been thrown out of their dorm. Companies like Allstate offering 10 or 15% discounts on their rates because there's less people driving and there's less accidents. That is showing your customers that you understand their pain and that you really truly feel like you're in it together. And it's a lot easier to get a yes when you ask for a favor if you've already done someone a favor, right?
Yeah.
And so, like we send our clients chocolates, and we do it because we love them, but we also do it because we want them to know that it's more to us than just an invoice and some creatives that we're doing for them or whatever that may be. And I think anything, Keith, you can do. Jennifer has a great comment here. She says, that's why it's important to keep yourself and your company engaged with your customers, whether you're shut down or not, right? I mean, there's a real opportunity here to position yourself as a leader in your space. And I think when you do that and when you show up in ways that entertain and amuse and delight and make your audience feel nostalgic and let them feel that love and that relationship and that inclusion, it's going to be much easier for them to support you.
There's also, and this goes back to Keith's question, but it was one of our colleagues has weighed in here too about this whole notion of asking for their support, or how can we help address their needs and help them. There's a great point here from one of our colleagues about it's really, if Target were to say we really need your help to get through this thing. Now, these stores are providing a lifeline for us. They're providing the things we need and the essentials, and we do have a dependency on them. But yeah, it would be kind of a knee-jerk reaction to go like, yeah, you've got a lot of resources, and you're going to be just fine in this. But it is the mom and pop shops. It's the places that are struggling to either get back in business at some point, or they're allowed to stay in business right now, but getting people in the door is very difficult. And those neighborhood, everything's, life is local, right? The closer you are to someone's home, the closer you are to someone's heart, the closer you are to someone's life, you're going to mean much more to them. Target customers are loyal to Target. Amazon customers are loyal to Amazon, but it's kind of out of the convenience and everything we get from them. We're not going to want to bail them out. They're also big corporations. So
brand loyalty, also a lot of that stems from comfortability and familiarity, right? So we always get gas at 7-Eleven because generally I understand where everything in a 7-Eleven is, and I can walk through one and get the stuff that I need. I know the way it's laid out, and I'm familiar with the signage. And it's not that I'm necessarily brand loyal to them. I'm not championing 7-Eleven, but that's where we get our gas because it's comfortable and it's familiar. And so in times like these, if your comfortability and familiarity is because you know where everything in Target is and you like the red bullseyes, you're not going into a Target right now.
Yeah.
And so where do you find that connection, right? And I think the final thought that I would share here, Joe, before we wrap this up, and then I'd like to ask you for a final thought. The final thought that I would like to share here is that, as with all marketing, it's much easier if you actually believe it and feel it and mean it. Like Michelle, one of our great colleagues has said that, she listens to a podcast and heard some messaging about how they've set up on their site a resource just for people to get connected with medical info that they need, right? This is just genuinely, truly helpful. And so I guess the final thought I would share with everyone is, if you feel it and you mean it and your customers are actually important to you, that will ring true. And if you're trying to make it up right now because you need to fake it in order to survive, as my son would say, your audiences are gonna smell it out like a fart in a car. They will know. They will know that it's BS, right? And so, if you're genuinely a good person and you mean it, you will find ways to communicate through this and gather your communities and your audiences around you. Just make sure and do a pass through your automated systems, and make sure and do a second or third careful pass through all your messaging before you send it out, because people are afraid and people are angry.
Yeah, and for my last item here, then I guess I would say it's so much of it does come down to, there is a common sense element to this. We want to make the sale, right? We, as marketers, we want to make the conversion. You want to make the sale. You want to get the products moving. And right now is a different time. And think through how you would react to something. Think through how you're seeing. I've received some LinkedIn solicitations recently where you just shake your head and you say, really? You honestly approached me with, do you want your business to go through the roof in 1 month? Like, really? Most businesses right now are saying, I want to hang on for dear life for a month.
Yeah.
Are
you dying for whatever, right? Like, are you dying to get a whatever? It's like, no.
Yeah. It's like just an ounce of common sense goes a long way in protecting your brand, building those connections. And if, to your point earlier, if you don't have that buildup of goodwill with your audiences to weather this storm, and you make it through this storm, start thinking about that, because there's another storm. There will be another thing, hopefully not of this magnitude, but we've been through them. You're not quite as the same number of years as I am, but you're close. We've been through September 11th. You've been through the '08 crash. We've been through
Spanish flu.
different cycles where life is disrupted dramatically. And it's, think through how you would react receiving your own message. And a lot of times that alone will stop you. And if you're not able to do that, do ask a friend, ask the colleague, and be very, very open to being critical of your own work and your messaging, and work it again, and then work it again, and just be very, very pragmatic and very human about it. Allow yourself to make some mistakes. Allow others to make some mistakes. The whole notion of be kind to each other right now is important, and extend a little bit of grace here and there. But we also, as marketers, do need to hold our industry feet to the fire and say, wow, you put up that ad to say, what extinct restaurants do you miss? You know.
Yeah.
So we do need, as an industry, hold each other a bit accountable on that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Joe, thank you so much for doing this with me.
It's been fun. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's been a great time. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Again, we're going to be doing this every Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Join us next Friday. We're going to be talking about paid search and social during critical times. And I tell you what, AimClear coworkers, Dan, Susan Winograd, who is just a genius when it comes to this stuff. And then you all know our visionary leader, Marty Weintraub, and he's going to be on that chat as well. So between the three of them, if you have any questions about how to get your message in front of the right people, how to get the numbers that you need to get out of those ads, that's going to be a call that you're going to want to be on. And in the meantime, you can reach out to us and say hello. Let us know your feedback on the show. And if you have any questions or any comments, please share them. So thanks again. Have a great weekend. Be kind to everyone. Be kind to yourselves. We love you.
Be well and be healthy. Take care, man.
Yep. All right. Thanks, everyone.